Hi, welcome to edtech. Today, this is a tutorial about HTML tables. This is a very interesting tutorial where you'll be learning all the details and specifications on making different types of tables, and also this tutorial will cover how to style these tables in different ways. So just open up your CodePen file. I start with the basic HTML structure first. The HTML open and close tag, head, open and close tag, and after the head, the body. It's a good practice to do the open and close tags like this and then separate them so that you don't forget later. Otherwise, you will be left with an open tag and the close tag will be forgotten, and then you have to keep scrolling down to look for it. Okay, so in the body, we start in the body, we'll be doing the syntax for making the table, and whatever CSS is required, the styling syntaxes, we'll be doing it in the head. Since this is a HTML tutorial, I'll not be doing it separately in the CSS file, but I'll be doing it within the HTML. As you've already learned, you can do the syntax for styling within the head of the HTML. Okay, so let's get some space out here. Okay, first the body. Okay, so the first thing that you need is some kind of a header so that it looks attractive. You have to give it a name. Okay, something like this. It could be anything. This is just for example. Okay, now this, just give it a bit of style here for the width. Otherwise, it won't render the whole width. I'll show you once we are done with the table what happens if you don't mention the width. Okay, then remember, when you're making a table, it moves like this. Okay, so all first the labels, because every table needs a label, right, or a heading. So you'll be moving from, when you're keying in, you'll be moving from left to right in this direction, in a horizontal direction. So in other words, the movement will be in a row, right? So that's why you need a open and close tag for the row. TR stands for table row. So if you remember this way, you'll never go wrong. Okay, sorry, there's a syntax here. This is the close. Okay, after this, now you need the headings or the label. You need to label your table, right? So the respective headings. Otherwise, what would you know what's the content all about? So let's say the first heading is name of a person, right? Then the second heading, let's say it's a date of birth. Then let's say the third one is place of birth. Now, if you wouldn't have written this, we'd see what happens. This will be all shrunk. So in order to avoid this kind of a shrinking, it doesn't look nice because we want the full width in order for it to portray well. So that's the reason we did the styling. So you can see the difference now. I think there's some problem here. It's very sensitive, so you have to be very careful. Okay, we are back to the same structure here. Okay, so name, you go like this: date of birth, place of birth. These are the label headings. Okay, so we are done here, this part. Next, you need to fill this with lines and with content and all that, right? So what do you need to fill this? You need to fill this with data. Okay, so the data when you're filling in will also follow the same direction. So what is your name? Fill the name data here. What's the date of birth? Fill the data here, and then place of birth, and then go back to the next one. So this is how the movement goes. So what do we need again? Since the movement is in this direction, we need a new set of TR, the table row. If you remember this way, you'll never forget. Back those days, about 2 to 3 years ago, when I was doing HTML tables, I was so kind of flustered. Why is this TR being used? And there was not a proper explanation given, and I was like stuck and trying to find out and figure out. Finally, I figured out for myself, so I do not want my students to struggle with the same questions or doubts or apprehensions, and that's the reason I'm explaining even the small itsy bitsy things which are sometimes overlooked in bigger tutorials. So I'm also quite a beginner instructor, so I know how a student feels when he or she is first time learning to code. I do remember the struggle. So keeping all that in mind, I want to make sure that my student doesn't have even an iota of struggle or doubts. And if they have, you're most welcome to ask me, and I will be only too glad to help out with each and every silly little doubts that you have, if ever. Okay, so back to the coding. Then you have to do the data. So how do you mention the data? Table data, TD short form. TD, so you can remember it this way. TD stands for the table data. As usual, open and close. Okay, so what do we need to write here? The name. Give it a fictitious name. Alan something. Alan Boss, for example. Next, what do you need to fill in? You need to fill in the date of birth. Okay, so let's call it the, okay, never mind. So let's say it is so that's done. Next, what should be the item? It is place of birth. Let's say New York. I forgot to write the TD first. Okay, so we are set here. The first set of information is already here. Okay, now the table cannot be having just information about one person. It doesn't look complete. So obviously it will have more such information for more such candidates, right? So in order to make life much easier for me and for the onlookers, what I'll do is I'll just copy paste the information couple of times so that we can save on time. Okay, so let's say we have 3 such sets, so 2 more sets I need. So just hang on there until I do 2 such sets more. But in your situation, you should be just filling up with more information. So I just don't want to waste your time just seeing me fill up the data. That's why I'm doing this copy paste. Copy or Control C, whichever, and then Control V. Again, Control V. So let's see how many such data we have. Okay, so we have data for 3 persons. Should be good enough. Okay, now let's go to the styling part. Okay, so let's go to the head section. Where's my head? Okay, where's the head? Okay, between the head, open and close tags, we need to put in the style. And as we remember in CSS and in HTML, when we want to put in the style for CSS within the HTML folder, in the head section, what do we put? Which element do we remember to put? The style element. The open and the close tags for the style element. So style, so that the styles will show. Okay, as usual, open and close tags, separate that. Okay, now for what are we doing the styling? For the table, if you remember, we had mentioned the table here. The table open and close tags. Where's my close tag for the table? I'm so sorry, I forgot to put the close tag of the table. You should be doing that, so never mind, we just go here and then close the table tag. Okay, so much for that. This is the problem I was indicating earlier. If you forget to write the close tag earlier, so it's a bit cumbersome to do the closing later. Okay, so now we have the open and close tags for the table without fail. Okay, so since we have to do the styling for table, what we write here is you're doing the styling for table, right? So table, comma, then for what are you doing the styling? For the head, which is the th. If you remember, in that order, whenever you're styling, it has to go in that order. Overall is the table. Inside that, first comes the head, then comes the data. So you just follow that order. Okay, so the decreasing order. Okay, let's say we want to make a border. So let's give it a border of thickness 2px, or let's even make it more interesting, 3px. Let's say the color, right? Okay, now as we can see, this doesn't look too good here, the double line. So there's a way of removing it. It's called border collapse. So we want to collapse it. Wow. Lo and behold, that goes. So now it looks much better. Okay. Now a bit more of styling. Let's say, just come out of this. Okay, let's say the table. You can do it separately or you can do it within the first, it's up to you. Padding, which we learned in CSS in the last tutorial. So as you can see, the padding, whatever the content area, it increases the space of that. So this looks much neater for both the TH and the TD, the heading labels and the data fields. The padding makes it look much better. Now, if you can see here, the data, all the data pieces are aligned to the left, but the heading field, if you see in the heading field, it's all central. So in order to make that similar to this, there's a way of doing it. So in this case, just select table TH or just TH, that is a heading. What would you do? You want to align the text, right? So we call it text align. That means it will give it the command align the text. Where? To the left. And then don't forget the semicolon. So what happens over here? Even the heading, the labels are all aligned to the left. So now it looks much neater. Okay. Okay, now there are other ways and other things that you should remember when you're making the table. So we go back. This is the simple part of making an HTML table. We go to some more complications to make life more challenging and exciting for you guys. Okay, come out of here. Okay, so make sure that you exit out of one particular table, because this whole table is within the table open and close tag. So when you want to make another one, make sure you exit from here. And then I'll do a small little heading, or you can even do BR. If you remember, the BR element is the break element. This will give you a space, and then I write a little heading. H1 I've already written, so I go for my H2. So what do I want to write here? Let's say I want to write here my second table, whatever, just for my reference. I call it my second HTML table, whatever. Okay, now make the second table. Now in my second table, I want to teach you a little trick, like for example, here you have everything like this is a row, these are rows. You have like 4 rows. The first one is taken up by the label field or the heading, and the next 3 rows you have the data, and then these are the columns. Okay, so what happens when there's a column span of 2? That means instead of having one data item in one column, how would it look if you have 2 items? We see how. Okay, so we see how the syntax or coding is done for that. Again, as usual, you repeat everything. H2, after H2 we write the table. Not forgetting to add table flows tag. Okay, then after that you need the tr, the table row as usual. This rule applies all the time, so keep that as your Bible. Okay, now we have to make the heading first as usual. Let's say it's a company name. Then the next one, let's say it's a contact number. One is a company name and the other one is contact number. And let's say the company has 2 contact numbers. So that's when it will be spanning 2 columns. We see how. go here. So within the th we have to write column span, which is in short colspan, which is already here as a prompt, equal to 2. That means we'll be spanning 2 columns. There'll be items not just in one column but 2 columns for the same field, for the same particular item or the label. We see how, like in this case, 2 contact numbers under the contact number label. Okay, let's go down and see. Okay, we are all set here until here. Now we've already closed the tr. Okay, next we need to write the content. Okay, so again make the tr, because you finished until here, you're coming to the next row, right? You finished the first row. First row was company name, contact number. Then in order to write the next data, you need to come back to the next row. So that's why you again need the tr. Okay, now back to the data. Because we finished the label field, we need the data now. Okay, what was the company name? We need to fill in the company name. So company name, let's say whatever. Now the data, the contact number, let's say it's all fictitious, so don't bother about this. Again another contact number, another contact number 03. Okay, so you have 2 contact numbers, right? So we are done until here. So let's see what's showing up here. There you go. So this is a company name data, and then you have 2 contact numbers. So why was it called column spanning 2? So that means this particular column, this column was for contact number, if you remember. This column is for contact number. This column was for company name. This way. So under the contact number, there's not just one number but two numbers available. So that is why this particular field is spanning 2 numbers, 2 information or 2 numbers or 2 data. So that's why we used column span equal to 2 while labeling, while doing the code for this particular heading or label. Okay, next. So we finished the table for this. Now we see what happens if the row is spanning 2. We see how. So just exit out of this table. Okay, then create the next table to show the next example. Let me make a header again. Okay, don't forget the break so that it gives up a nice break. Okay, after the h2, now this is the third table that we are making for HTML5. Okay, so again, beginning as usual, the movement is row, so we make the table row first, the tr. Don't forget the table, of course, the table. Table, open and close tags. The tr. Okay, so here you need the headings again, the heading label. So the TH for the heading. So let's say the employee name, that's a heading. You need to fill in the data for that. Okay, you will understand. I'll explain it in a while. Okay, until here, let's see what's happening. Okay, so this is going like this. Here's the label all on this side, and this is the information here. So it's the table is going in this direction. Okay, then we have to continue like this. We have to make the next heading after this because we already finished information here. We are going to the next row. So we need the TR again, the row again. Okay, so the heading, one more heading we require. So here go here and just write this out, row span, spanning 2 rows, or it could be 3 rows, whatever. You can just keep experimenting. In this case we're doing spanning 2 rows, and then give it a name, let's say social media, because some people or most of the people have more than one social media accounts, so that's why I used social media as an example for this. Close this. Then I need a data for this, right? Because I show you here, when you go here, this is complete until here, so you need the social media accounts. So go here. So now you need the data. Let's say Facebook. Okay, now if you go here, you will find already finished, this row finished. So we have to move back to the next row, which is why I'm not doing anything here. This is already closed. Jump from here. I have to go to the next row. So again the TR, open and close. And then the data, the last data, which is, let's say in my case, Pinterest. Okay, and if you find the table is already closed. Okay, let's go over here and see what's happening. Okay, cool. So this is the label, these two labels, I'm sorry. This is the employee name, right? And this is like the social media contacts or whatever, links. So here the employee name is Roger Bryan, and his social media contacts are first Facebook and Pinterest. So the reason, if you see that every time I move from here to here, I finish one T row, the table row, go back to the next table row, right? And then I did Facebook first because this is already from after social media, the TH, I went and filled in the TD for Facebook. This row is complete, right? The Pinterest is coming into the next row because it is spanning the row. So what do? I kind of go back here, do the TR again, and then I do the Pinterest. That's the reason I went back, because this is Pinterest is not in the same row as Facebook, which is why, since it is jumping into the next row, I need to do the TR and the open and close tags again in order to fill in the data for the social media account. If it is still not understood, I can explain later if somebody has a doubt. Okay, so until here we are done. So in other words, row span of 2. So this information for social media contact is spanning 2 rows. That is the meaning. Instead of writing just one information here, we need two information. So I need to span 2 rows here for one label. That's the meaning of this. So you can practice some more, and if you still have doubts, you can let me know. Okay, so then I teach you something else, a bit more interesting information here. Okay, all this while we're just doing tables at random. If you remember in the CSS and HTML earlier, we could give ID, attribute of ID to HTML, and then later we can use that ID attribute to style the HTML element. So we are going to do similar thing to the table also, so that you can make one particular table which is unique, because ID, you know, is unique to one particular, whichever table or whichever item you give an ID, it becomes unique. So the styling is done only for that ID. Just like, you know, like for example, this is the same thing like when you're working in office or military, army, etc. You are given a particular set of ID number, and then when there's a roll call, when there's any task to be done, they will not call out your name, they will just call out to your ID, right? So this works similar to that, because when somebody is calling out to your ID means you're the person in charge, you're the person involved, not any other person, because the other person is holding another ID. So that is the meaning of uniqueness. So this is done in order to make sure that the styling is only called for on that particular unique item or table in this particular case. Okay, so we have done, if I'm not mistaken, what was the number? I just go above and see what was the number of the table. So this was our, the first one, this was the first, second, third. So we finished third. Okay, so we make our fourth, give a break. Okay, so do the same thing over again. So when you're doing all this, it's a good practice. First we give the style as usual, and then here we also write the ID. Let's say ID equals, this is a fourth, so we call it T04, right? Okay, so this is the identification for this. Now, as usual, the T, we move in the row direction. And then we make the label for the heading field. Okay, let's say candidate, candidate name, age, place of birth. Okay, we do this first. Let's see what's happening here. Okay, the label is done already, so the row is finished. So since the row is finished, we move over to the next row. Okay, so now the content or the data, TD stands for data, table data. So let's say Alan Smith is the name of the candidate. Let's say the age 32 years. Place of birth California. Right, so I want to like kind of copy paste to save time. I'm going to do that a couple of times, let's say 4 times. Otherwise it becomes very tedious for the tutorial. Control C so that it's done quickly. Let's see here what's happening to our table. Oh, this is great, cool. So never mind about this information, we just copy paste so it looks the same, but the idea is to figure out some other way of doing tables, some other styling options. Okay, so let's say since we've already given it an identification, right? So what was the identification? T04 if I'm not mistaken. Yes, T04. So we can use that for our styling. We go back to the head, the styling area. Okay, here you go. Just after we finish the last one, we go back here. So we want to make this particular table different from other tables. That's the idea. That's why we gave the ID. So let's say we call it the table. Oh, sorry, mistake. It has to be before the style. Okay, so table. Whenever there's an ID while styling, we use the hash key T05 exactly. Sorry, the 4 and then the curly braces. Okay. Now just remember one more thing. In our, I forgot to mention that. Where's our last table? Okay. Here, let's say I don't mention this here. I'll show you a trick, little bit of trick. In other cases, I've been showing that, but let's say I don't show that here. So if I don't show that, it looks like this. Now I go back to the styling page, styling head. Okay, go here. Okay, just like in CSS, I just write width, because width I didn't do it there. Let's say I can do it there, but just in case, since I've already given an ID, I can do it here. 100%, simple as that. Semicolon. You can see what happens. Completely changed. It becomes wide enough now. Full space. Okay, then the background color, let's give it like pink. Let's see what happens to the color of the table. That looks gorgeous. Okay, Well, not too gorgeous by color sense, but just as an example. Then you go finish the styling curly braces, continue. So let's say you want to do some styling for the head area. As usual, table hash T04 curly braces. Okay, so let's say the font color you want as white, so that changes. Okay, since white is not too easily visible, I change it to red. Let's not move it too often so you can see it here as well. So cool. Okay, then you can even, so this one you can keep changing from pink, you can even make it black, whatever. You see the effect. That's cool. Now you can even change, like let's say there are several rows and you want to, because every row is like a child to the parent, right? This is the parent, so every row is a child to the parent. So there's another way, let's say there are hundreds and hundreds of rows, then it becomes too challenging to number them, or it becomes too challenging if all of them are of the same color, whereas you don't want all of them to be colored same. Then in that case, there's another trick. I'll show you how. Table hash T04 curly braces. Let's say, oh, I forgot to write this because we need the child elements. Nth, because we are calling it nth because we don't know how many. It could be 100th, it could be 200th, whatever. Nth child, that's the meaning of nth child. Because we don't know presently which number. This is applicable when there are lots and lots of rows and columns. Let's see if that's happened. So every even number and every, you can call for an even number or odd number. There's a bit of a problem here. It should only change the even number. Okay, let's call it some other color, yellow. And then here I forgot to write, that's the reason, TR. I forgot to write the TR because it's under the TR. TR colon and then nth child. Yes, now it's going to happen. Yes, there you go. So all the even numbers, this is the second, this is the fourth, as you can see, have changed to yellow. Similarly, if you'd have called it like odd, if you call it odd, then only the odd number will change to yellow, first, third and fifth. So that's quite cool, right? And then another little trick for styling. Okay, let's say the last one. Okay, just one more table I will make. Here, similar to the concept of T head TBody and TFoot. Okay, let's say this would be the last table, so you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. So that was the fourth. So after the fourth, I go over to the fifth table. Just ignore the grammatical mistakes. This is just for styling. Okay, my fifth table. The break. BR, remember, has no close tag. It's self-closing. I think I've mentioned that earlier. Okay, so I make another table. This is the conventional table that I'll be making. First table with 100%. Close the table. Close the table. Then after that, you need because you're making the label for the head. So that comes under the T head, the table head. So just label it as T head, open and close. So what comes under the T head? Only the TH. Do a simple one here. Day. Another one, just a small one. So let's say earnings. If it doesn't make sense, it's okay. I'm just trying to show you the styling. Okay, so this is under the TH comes under the T head, and then as you can see, it's closed. So, but don't go outside the table exit. So you're still inside the table, inside the table. Okay, then you have the TBody. Remember it like that: T head, TBody, and the TFoot, just like in website. Okay, which we'll be covering in a later section. So then comes the TBody. I'll explain that in a while. TBody. TBody open and close, TBody open and close as usual. Then after that, in the TBody, what you'll be doing, it will be your what you call the data. But we forgot some. I forgot something here. After doing the T head, I forgot to do the TR, which is always the convention. And then it has to end before, after the earnings. Okay, here, close. Forgot to do that. Okay, now we are set, all set. TBody. Okay, the same thing because we are moving in the row direction. So again, the TR. Thank you for your patience for sitting throughout the video tutorial. TR, okay, TD, because now we are filling in the data. Okay, now here what do you want to have? The earnings. So let's say the day earnings. So which day we have to write the data? Monday, let's say Monday, right? Okay, then the next data is the earnings for Monday. Let's go here and see what's happening. Okay, so you can see day is this. Sorry, the earning didn't come. I did a mistake here. The earnings has to be in between. Earnings has to be in between. Earnings has to be in between. So that's a label, so it has to come in between. I forgot to do that. That's why it was showing an error here. So now we are set. So these are the two labels. We finished doing for one day. We just do it for one more day and then we are done. So we do finish for, we haven't finished for the body, we just finished for Monday. So we have to do for Tuesday, so we have to do move to the next row. we have to move to the next row, and then we do again the data for Tuesday. Right, and what is the earnings data for earnings? Let's say $500 again. So we are done for both the days. Now we need to total it up, right? We don't have the total yet. Okay, so the TBody is finished. So within the body, let's say we finished the data for the earnings. Then after the TBody, come out of the TBody, we do the footer, open and close, right? And then give it a gap. Then as usual, TR moving in the row direction. Okay, what do we write here? Let's say total earnings. That's understood. Total earnings. That's the label for the footer. Then okay, then we need the data for that. What is the earning? Whenever it's data, it's TD, $1,000, right? Okay, so if we go here, we see like this. I'm about to finish, so just be patient. Okay, this is what. Well, there's a small bit of mistake here. Did I forget to do the TR? Yes, that's the reason. So this should be total earnings, should be the data. So that's why the mistake. So I have to repeat this again. Okay, after the T4, we again do the TR. Okay, then within that, data. Okay, so total earnings. Just write total. Then the amount. $1,000. Then let's see what's happening here. Yes, we are set now. So you can see this. So this was the footer, this is the body, Monday, Tuesday, and this was the head. T head, T body, T footer. This comes in handy when we are doing the styling, which you will see how. So we go back to the styling section in the head. All we need to mention is a T body, T head, and T foot, and you see the magic that happens. The style, go back to the style area in the just before exiting the style here, I just click a return, and I do the styling accordingly. So let's say I didn't name I didn't give it an ID, so I will just say let's say T head, or yeah, T head. It could be even background, it could be anything. T head is blue. I can also do and you'll see that the background color of that heading changes. That's so you can do similar for T head, for T body, T foot. So let's go to the T foot in the last table. There you go. So this is how you can even do for the TBody similarly. So if you see here, sorry, I shouldn't choose a color chosen earlier. Let's say purple. Okay, in this case, everything changes because the TBody stands for all. So if I don't want that to happen, what should I do? I must give this table a unique ID that I gave the previous one. This was just for example. So we just ignore the T-body. Rest of it, the T-foot and the T-head we can follow, and then T-body, as I said, to make unique, make sure that you give it a name, and then only that one will change. So I hope you followed very clearly, and if you have still any more doubts, I'll be leaving a link to my code file so you can follow from there, and any questions and doubts even after that, you can still mention it in the comment section. I'll be glad to help you out with any doubts in the tutorial 1,000 times if ever, no problems, no issues, just so that you really understand it well. So remember, HTML tables and styling is very important because going forward you'll be using it a lot for your web design and web development projects. So make sure you understand it right now so as to avoid problems and issues later on. Once you get confused, it's very difficult to remember how to do such things. So it's better to get it right in the beginning. So see you in the next tutorials. Stay subscribed. Thanks to those who are subscribed, and thank you also for those who are going to subscribe. Stay subscribed and happy. Hope you'll subscribe in order to get more such lessons in HTML and CSS. Until then, ciao.